It's one thing falling in love with a house, picturing yourself moving in and calling it home, and quite another navigating the world of price negotiating, mortgage lenders, and finding the budget that works best for you. An agent who's a Realtor can make understanding that world easier. Realtors have the expertise, access to proprietary data, and tools to help you get from imagining living somewhere to actually doing it. That's the kind of help we can provide. Because that's who we are. Realtors are members of the National Association of Realtors.
Want to make Mom's day? Get to your Nordstrom Rack now and score amazing deals for Mother's Day, which is Sunday, May 12th. Find tons of gifts from only $30 at Nordstrom Rack. Fragrance, jewelry, luxury bags, activewear, beauty, and more. Save on Kate Spade New York, Stuart Weitzman, and Ted Baker London. Great brands, great prices. So shop your Nordstrom Rack store today and treat Mom to the good stuff from just $30.
Today is the day you will lose fat. Come see Dr. T at NJ Diet.
Easiest diet I've ever done. It's changed my life. Come see Dr. T.
Using blood work and DNA testing. 1-855-5NJ-DIET and NJDiet.com. Change your life in only 40 days with NJ Diet.
Smith & Wesson, After Raw, Black Star, De La Soul, Eminem, Flip Mode Squad, M.O.P., O.C., Royce the 5'9", Razkaz, Diamond D, Pete Rock, Talib Kweli, Freddie Fox, Jean Grey, and Naughty by Nature. Just some of the artists my next guest has worked with. He's Evil D from the legendary producing team, the Beatminez, and I want to welcome him to Library with Tim EInenkel. Thanks for joining me, man.
Hey, thanks for having me here. You know what I'm saying?
That's awesome. This is truly an honor. So, one of the first things I read about you is that, you and your brother, Mr. Walt, grew up in a very musical family. I think the quote your brother says in an interview is, the first record in his collection was Diana Ross Presents the Jackson 5. When thinking back to kind of the creating the Beatminez, and all that you guys have done, what's the importance of having this broad range of musicality for what you have to do in terms of, creating albums or creating tracks or creating instruments?
Well, it definitely helps you think outside the box. Like, with me, I like to, my stuff that I create is more musical. And that's because I don't just listen to one thing. Like, I have different references. Like, when you're a hip hop producer, you're supposed to think outside the box.
Right.
Because you listen to funk, jazz, rock, soul, just to find that particular sample. You know what I'm saying? And being that, like, the music that I grew up with was so diverse, so crazy, it helped me a lot. Like, that's why, like, my vast knowledge of records is the way it is, Thinking
of that, I mean, this is a question kind of to skip ahead, but you obviously grew up at a time, and Black Moon grew up at a time, Smith & Wesson grew up at a time where rap wasn't the genre, I remember Z100 in New York being happy or excited to say absolutely no rap music here, that type of big, deep voiceover. Today you have a generation, and even a little generation before us, hip hop artists growing up on hip hop, growing up on rap. How do you think the music has changed, musically, but also lyrically, if you can, about how has it changed when you have a bunch of artists growing up on rap music versus like Stevie Wonder or Marvin Gaye or Diana Ross?
Well, what has happened now is hip hop has become more. It's like, what it is. You lose the experimental phase. Back when I produced my first album, which was the Black Moon album. Like I said, my musical influences is crazy. And as you listen to that album, it reflects that. A lot of the cats that grew up in hip hop, all they heard was beats and rhymes. So it's like they grew up in that. And, everybody thinks it's just beats and rhymes. Actually, it's actually more than that. You know what I'm saying? Like, this isn't just something that, like I always tell people like this, when it comes to hip hop, this is just something that, I'm going to make a record today.
Right.
No, this is something that you like, this is like a lifestyle to me. You know what I'm saying? I wake up in the morning, I don't put on this gear because, it's my hip hop gear.
Right.
This is what I wear, And it's like a lot of people, a lot of the artists nowadays, it's like, I don't know, like they think hip hop is something else. Right. Now, here's one thing I will say is I'm not mad at anybody. Like, you know, you create how you create. You're going to create your way. I'm going to create my way. But I think that one of the problems I have with music today is a lot of the cats also don't like old records, don't like older music.
Right.
And I feel that that's wrong. You have to know your history to know, you got to know your past and know your future. You know what I'm saying? So that's that.
Speaking of, and obviously the Beatminez is just, you look at your just instrumentals, it's like, you know, an array of like sampling, sound effects, you know, guys do incredible things. And then you see the Beatminez as it's a group. It's like, it's not, growing up as a kid, you know, whatever, 11 in 1988 probably. You know, hip hop groups, you know, rap groups. You don't know much about DJ groups, so to say, producing groups. So why were the Beatminez started, and why did you guys need to kind of have the feel to be a DJ/producing collective? Well,
first of all, it's two different things. You have the Beatminez DJs, and you have Beatminez. Right. The Beatminez consists of myself and my brother, Mr. Walt. And, you know, we had past members, which is Baby Paul, Chocolate Tie, and Rich Black. You know what I'm saying? Shout out to them. That's my peoples. That's my peoples for life.
Right.
And it's like me and Walt, well, we're brothers. We're 3 years apart. Right. So when we was born, the Beatminez was born. Like, we played instruments back in the days. Like, I know how to play the drums. I learned how to play the drums. My brother learned how to play the drums also. Then we learned the piano. And like me, one of my talents is if I sit down with 10 minutes with any instrument, I could play it.
Oh, I hate you.
And it's like, that's the advantage we grew up with. At the same time, we grew up hearing every Jamaican record ever at that time. And James Brown.
Wow. Nice.
You know what I'm saying? And then, you know, the thing with West Indian parents is they'll like the duttiest Jamaican records, the craziest Jamaican records, and listen to like something crazy. Like my mom's listen to all the ill Jamaican records and then listen to Kenny Rogers. Like, I don't know what it is with West Indian cats, but that's how it is.
Right.
They'll listen to the illest records and then listen to like Britney Spears. Britney Spears will tear the party up. So, I grew up with that. Like, I grew up listening to that and like country music and I don't even like country music like that.
Right.
But, you know, it is what it is.
Right.
Listening to pop stuff and, you know, but back then, the pop stuff back then ain't like the pop stuff now. So,
right.
The pop stuff back then was more soulful. But, you know, it's just me and Walt as growing up, that's how our musical taste formed, right. You know. And when we started making records, because you know of course living in Brooklyn, we experienced hip hop early. When we started making records, it was a whole different ball game. Like, you know, my whole thing was everybody was on the drum. It was just a drum break and like a loop, like a James Brown loop, whatever. I was like, no, I'm going to bring vibes out. And that's like Who Got the Props.
Right.
When it came out, it was different. You know, and that's another thing I will say, you know, going back to that question you asked me before, older artists are not afraid to be different.
Push down, yeah.
The records of today, you know, I don't know if it's my older age or whatever, but it's now all sounding the same to me.
No, it's not your older age, because I feel the same way. Because I've been to a, I think we're probably around the same age, but I've been to a show, and obviously probably the oldest person, one of the oldest people in the crowd, and the DJ's going and she's playing different tracks, and she switches to a different song, same beat, but everyone in the audience goes nuts, as if like, I don't know, she split the atom and DJ, you know, and it was one of those moments where I was like, my ears going? Like, what's going on? Well, she didn't do anything different. It's the same track over and over again. And it's just
crazy.
interesting. You talk about your gift of being able to play an instrument. You know, you play. I read you piano, violin, guitar, bass, organ, drums, and then at the age of 7, you learned turntables.
Yeah.
You're now obviously a legendary DJ. What was it? What was it about the turntable that spoke to a 7-year-old Evil D? Not these other instruments. And also, just to be further with it, why not for you graph or b-boying or even MCing?
I did all that.
Oh.
But as an MC, number one, I never liked my voice. Number two, I knew there was MCs way better than me, so I knew not to go there. Graph, I used to write. My mother ended my career. You know, she seen me write. Somebody had parked a truck outside my house, and me and my neighbor down the block, who's my writing partner, we seen that white truck. Later on that night, we came out and we did it. We rode on the truck. We do a big piece on the truck, and the next day, my mom's looked at the truck and seen Evil D. Oh, I know who that is.
Oh no!
And that was the end of my career.
Quick. But you were obviously nice at this.
Yeah, I was.
Yeah.
B-boying, breakdancing, B-boying. I tried it. I wasn't nice, but here's the funny thing. I am a member of Rocksteady,
Nice.
but I'm a member of the Rocksteady DJs.
Ah, nice.
Which, you know, I was all right with it. You know, like all the elements I've tried. And DJing is where my heart is at. Now, with DJing, what made me DJ was jealousy. My brother, Mr. Walt, was DJing at a block party, and I seen him DJing, and everybody, oh my God, yo, he's so dope. I was like, no, I'm better than him. And what I started doing was I would go downstairs, like he would leave with his friends. I would run downstairs and start DJing and put everything back. And then when he comes back, be like, hey, how you doing? So, you know, that's how I learned. By listening to what he was doing with his friends and copying that. And then when he would leave, I would learn that and then put my own spin on it. Then also listening to Red Alert, Chuck Chill Out, and Mr. Magic, R.I.P., and Marley. Like those cats right there influenced me. Like Marley was more, like Marley was like he was a DJ that he rocked with technology. Red Alert, Chuck Chill Out was more of the, yo, we're going to throw the record on. Like they have perfect timing. And I learned that by listening to them. And also listening to Chef Pettibone. Chef Pettibone, he was on Kiss FM. Like this dude would do blends, and Tony Humphries. Tony Humphries' blends was incredible. And you like listening to all these dudes is how I got my style. And also, you know, for my brother,
right?
Of course.
It's you talk and you said listening versus watching, right? And that just goes kind of for me into this how, I mean, you as an artist, your mind works in obviously ways that people probably can't fathom.
Yeah.
Like you're listening to someone, you know, Red Alert do something, but even though you're hearing him on the radio, you could see him visually in your mind. And then I read more about you and about this amazing creative mind, and I'm like, so how did he know to pour water to create on the sound for the remix of the Roots Silent Treatment? Oh, how do you even think of that?
You know what's funny? The way we are as humans, we react like there's certain sounds that are soothing to us. The sound of pouring water is soothing.
Right.
And believe it or not, when I made the mix, I was like, yo, this is dope. But it has to be something in there that people can relate to. Like in most of my records, there's something you can relate to. And I actually was sitting in D&D studios and we was drinking water. And it's clicked in my head, yo, try pouring water. And I mic'd up I set up the mic. I poured water into another pitcher. Poured it back a couple of times, listened to it, and sampled it. And, you know, like little subtle things like that works. Like I said, it soothes your mind. Like your mind will be like, yo, I heard this before.
Right.
It sounds familiar. It's like rain. If you just play rain, people know the sound of rain. It'll calm them down.
Right. Nice.
You know, so that's the whole thing with that. Like I've done crazy stuff. Like I've made rice. I put rice in oatmeal cans and shook them on records, and it works. I did a House of Pain remix called Over There-ish, and I mic'd up my doorbell in my house.
Nice.
You know, stuff like that.
Is this stuff that's for you? Is it kind of planned out? Are these stuff planned out, or is it like one of those? I remember I interviewed DJ Newmark.
He's one of my favorites, by the way.
And he talks about this like he was doing it's when he did one of the first albums with Slim Kid Trey. Yeah. And we were just kind of talking, and I was like, well, how do you know that? Like, how do you know to put the doorbell there? And he talks about a sixth sense type thing.
You just feel it. It's like when I'm working on a beat, I'll make the foundation, and once I make the foundation, I'll go, okay, you know what? Let me see what blah 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 adds to it. Like if it's Black Moon, let me see what Buckshot and 5FT adds to this. And once they add something, that'll make me go back to the lab and go, all right, let me add this, let me add that. Like, one thing with myself now, I play more on the records. Like, before I used to sample a whole lot. I still sample, let's not get it twisted, but I play more, and I chop a lot. I chop a lot of samples. And on, like, even with the new Black Moon album that's coming out now, there's samples on there, of course, but I'm playing also. So that's why it has the sound it has. It's back to the drums, the hard drums, the heavy bass lines, and the ill samples, you know? And the reason I did it like that was because that's what's missing. Right. That's what I'm looking for in my music. Oh, nice. Like, I'm looking for it in my hip-hop, like hip-hop in general. You know, I could tell people, yo, you need to do this, you need to do that. Let me do it. And then I could go, no, make it like this, you know. Right. And hopefully it'll start people doing that back again.
Why do you think, you talk about sampling, but why do you think less people sample today? I mean, is it something that was taught? Is it something that they were just not taught not to sample? Is it more of kind of maybe being scared of a lawsuit? You know, a little bit of both?
What it is, it's a little bit of both. The original artists, they look at that and they go, oh, $1 million. Right. So they think that they're going to make $1 million off of you sampling them, which is wrong, because music doesn't make, like, selling music isn't making money like it used to. Right. The whole thing is, number one, a lot of record companies don't want you to sample because they don't want to go through clearing it. Number two, a lot of artists was like, look, I want my publishing for myself. Me, I feel like, yo, I'm going to pay for what I use, you know, so I might as well go all out. If you're giving me this platform to do what I got to do, I don't mind spending the money. Right. As long as I get good quality music from it. You know, but a lot of cats are scared to sample because they don't want to pay the price. A lot of, you know, like, it's a lot of things. There's no such thing as a sample law because everybody, oh, it's a sample law. Right. No. Yeah. There's no such thing as a sample law. What it is you sample something, you pay for it. And rec companies don't want you to sample. Like, if they looked at the new Black Moon album right now, they'll be like, yo, this guy's crazy. This guy's really crazy over here. But, you know, you have things like now, like for artists, for producers, you have things like TrackLib that help you clear samples easier. And some artists get it. Like George Clinton gets it. Right. George Clinton, like, he clears samples, so it's so easy to clear a George Clinton sample, it's not even funny. You know what I'm saying? Because, I mean, when you say get it, they get it because they understand that ideally people will start listening back to the original piece, or kind of, or helps, or also helps his legacy. Like, George Clinton gets it because hip hop saved him, just like hip hop saved James Brown, God rest his dead. Right. Like, yo, no one was thinking about James Brown like that until sampling really started blowing up. And that's the truth. Right. Sampling has brought a lot of cats back from the dead. And, you know, a lot of people appreciate it. Then you have some people who, they don't get it, you know? Like, most of the time, a lot of people appreciate it, though. But, you know, you got a lot of people out there that are greedy and just waiting, you know?
You know, I think prior to you getting here, I asked you, how'd you get here? You said, I took a train from Bushwick. You've been there, obviously, for a long time. All my life. All your life. I mean, I grew up in Washington Heights, and I know that neighborhood. I have not been there. It's too expensive to live there anymore. Yeah. So I know that has changed a boatload. For you, how has Bushwick changed? Oh. and also from an art point of view and influence, how do you think your music is having the same family dynamic that you grew up listening to all this music and having your musicality? But from the neighborhood point of view, if you grew up now, how do you think, or do you think your music would be different than from, and I know that's a loaded question, I guess, but, have you ever thought how it would be different at that time?
My music would be different now because it would be easy listening hip hop. Because when I walk out my house right now, everybody's like, "Hi, neighbor. Hello. Hi." And I'm a property owner, so I ain't going nowhere.
Right.
And I won't sell. So they hate me.
Oh, yeah. Must say, yeah.
Yeah. But, back in the days, the neighborhood was the neighborhood. Bushwick was the hood. Nobody wanted to come to Bushwick. Why? For what? To buy some drugs? You know what I'm saying? Because that's what we had out there.
Right.
We had the best. Well, I'm not gonna say it on the podcast, but there was some big things going on in Bushwick drug wise, and a lot of people would come out there to get their drugs, and it was a lot of killings, and Bushwick was crazy. All of a sudden, like at the end of the early 2000s, it's like Bushwick started cleaning up,
right?
And I'm like, whoa, something's going on. Like I'm gonna tell you right now, if you live near a train station, like a junction or whatever, and they start fixing up that junction, like to us, Knickerbocker Avenue, Myrtle Ave and Wyckoff, that's a junction.
Right.
When they start fixing that up, when I seen Starbucks putting a store right there,
yeah, it's over.
I knew what time it was.
Yeah.
When I went up on Wyckoff to Halsey Street train station, where I'm from, where I take the train, and I seen they was fixing that little area up. All right, there's something going on here. There's a hotel here now.
Oh, God, yeah.
You know what time it is.
Right.
So, my neighborhood went from being, the houses was not expensive and the rent was good, to now they're $3,000 for an apartment.
Crazy. Yeah, that's amazing.
Really? The people who used to live there can't even live there no more, And I feel bad for the people coming out of jail and they're coming home and they're like, where's my home?
Right.
Yeah,
no, it's real.
So it's crazy.
I want to take you back to 1997.
Okay.
So I grew up. So just the background is I grew up in Washington Heights. I went to school in East Harlem. Loved anywhere from Guns N' Roses to Public Enemy to I'll Tell You Later, Self Destruction song I know entirely by heart, and I presented it in 6th grade, which I don't know what I presented, but I presented in 6th grade. But then there was a moment where I kind of fell out of love with hip hop for a little bit. I thought it was for me, I think there was a political part of it. It was too bling blingy, so to say. But then Black Star came out with an album, Soundbombing began, Rawkus Records, and I started to love hip hop again.
Yeah.
And I did a radio show in college based on kind of that. You are obviously the intro track and the mix of Soundbombing.
Thank you.
And to this day, Evil D is on the mix. Just Kick It.
Yeah.
Is in my head all the time. Looking back, what do you think the significance of the Soundbombing era was, or the tapes or the records, and Rawkus Records at the same time? But also, what were their influence to hip hop and hip hop culture, but also to the artists that were on those albums?
One thing I'll say is this. First of all, let's start off like this. I'm going to tell you the beginning of Soundbombing. Soundbombing began as me being a fan of Rawkus Records, and Brian and Jarrett, who was the owners of Rawkus Records, trying to pick my brain. Because Rawkus Records was formed because of Nervous Records. They seen how Nervous and Black Moon operated. And they was like, yo, we need to make a label like that. Because when Rawkus first came out, they did rock. They did rock and they did techno records. They was bugging. And all of a sudden, they just started doing hip hop. They seen how Nervous Records was rolling, and they started doing hip hop records. And when they looked at Nervous, they seen how Black Moon and Michael Weiss was operating. Little did they know with Nervous, Michael Weiss comes from the Weiss family, which is a very a family that's very deep in the industry. There's he got different uncles and cousins and people that are in the industry that like they're legendary. Even his father, God rest his dead, Sam Weiss, had the biggest independent distribution company. Sam Distribution, I think? No, Wind Distribution. Wind Distribution. He had a label called Sam Records, but it was Wind Distribution. And, you know, when I did retail, this was one of the companies I used to order from all the time. Now, Rawkus, when they seen, you know, yo, it's Evil D, you know, they hired a lot of ex-Nervous employees. And I put out a independent record for my house, Shades of Brooklyn, When It Rains It Pours and Change, and that record was blowing up. So when they seen how I was selling that record straight from my house, and I sold like 100,000 records.
It's incredible. Wow. Yeah.
They was like, whoa, well, wait a minute. How's he doing this? So I had a meeting with Rawkus. And then now here's the funny thing. My brother sees Brian and Jarrett somewhere, and he's like, yo, I would love to do a record on Rawkus. Yo, because you guys are incredible. And they're like, yo, no problem. Yo, Beatminez is very dope. So I'm having this meeting with them, and I was like, and I told them, I said, look, I love what y'all are doing over here. I want to make a mixtape of Rawkus Records, just Rawkus Records. Give me a bunch of records. Give me access to your artists. I want to make this tape, and it's going to be dope. Because there was a convention coming up. I forgot which convention it was. And I said, yo, I got mad time at D&D. Just come to D&D. As a matter of fact, come by tonight. Invite a couple cats through, and we just going to make this tape. And that's what happened. It was one night. Everybody came through, and I recorded freestyles. R.A. the Rugged Man. I recorded Black Star. Did I record a Black Star freestyle? Yeah. Black Star. Like, I recorded a bunch of stuff. And then I sat down and started putting this tape together. I went and got acetates cut so I could blend everything. And I put this tape together. And Brian and Jarrett was like, how much do you want for this tape? I was like, yo, it's a free giveaway. Just give me I said, yo, you know what? I'll charge you $500. Boom, boom, boom. Did the exchange. A week later, Brian and Jarrett calls me and goes, yo, we was listening to the tape. And in my mind, I'm like, oh, here we go. They don't like it. Oh, we was listening to the tape and we love it so much we want to put it out. I'm like, nah, don't put that out. You crazy? Nah, Evil, yo. It sounds just like one of your street tapes that you got out there. Yo. And it sounds like you on Hot 96, because I was on Hot 97 at the time. Yo, this is incredible. We want to put it out. And I was like, nah. Don't do that. And they was like, no, for real. Yo, come by the office. Let's talk about it. I go to the office. We sit down and we talk. We negotiate terms. They give me an advance. And it was a cheap advance. I think it was like $10,000 advance. And it was like, yo, we're going to give you points. We're going to give you royalties and blah, 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 blah.
Right.
All right. They put Soundbombing out, right? And it explodes.
Right.
And I'm like, people like that? I said, yo, my mixtapes. And then I said, my mixtapes do sell like crazy. Wait a minute. And what ended up happening was, yo, it blew up. This was the only album that Rawkus ever did where they collected royalties. On their other albums, they overspent. This was the first album they made money back. So they was bugging like, yo, we need you to do part 2. And I was like, no. I said, what you should do, just get some other DJs to do the other parts. Right. I said, yo, I did part 1. I'm done. It's like, no, well, you know, I'm like, no. That's it. I said, I'm not going to kill myself. It'd be like doing part 97 where people don't want to hear me no more.
Right.
And so that's what happened with what's called. And here's the funny thing. To this day, I have not received no royalties from it.
From them.
Yeah.
Wow.
To this day. You know, but it's cool. The album is a historic album and people love it. And I'm glad, you know, it wasn't intended to come out. And it's funny because I told this story on OK Player. I was like, it wasn't intended to come out, but it came out and people loved it.
And imagine, I mean, you feel like you were, with that album alone, responsible for, launching a lot of people's
Yeah, and that's the crazy part. Like, I was just making a tape.
Right.
Like, but that's the power of mixtapes, you know? Like, and it's funny because that tape was like one of the first official mixtapes made the way it was made. Mm-hmm. And from there, everybody just started making mixtapes and bugging out and, you know. But it was cool. Like, you know, it sold a lot and it didn't cost Rawkus anything because most of it was records they had.
Right.
They didn't have to pay for the studio time because it was on my dime. And, like, you know, that was it. Like, and Brian and Jared still owe me money to this day.
Is there a kind of looking back of recording all, you know, RA and Black Star, and is there one artist that you were kind of pleasantly surprised by in terms of like his or her lyricism?
Yeah, but no, I wasn't surprised at anybody because I already knew RA was dope because I've been a fan of RA's before that. Talib and Mos, I've been heard them.
Right.
Like, I knew they was crazy. Like, everybody who I worked with was dope. So I wasn't surprised. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And, you know, like I said, right at the time, Rawkus was about the music. Then, you know, when they started, you know, like the whole trying to be Def Jam, that's what killed them.
Right, yeah. No.
Like, you know, and Rawkus, like one thing, I remember going to Japan, and Rawkus was the first label that I seen. I went to the store, and they had their own bin. And it was like everybody had like the group bin. You had the Black Moons, you had the Buster, you had the Tribe Called Quest, and you had Rawkus. And I remember hitting them up and going, yo, guys, whatever y'all doing right now, keep doing it because this is what's making y'all legendary.
Right.
And what happened was they got blinded by the money coming in. Like all the big dudes had houses in the Hamptons, so Rawkus went and got a house in the Hamptons. And then I remember when I got my deal with them, they wanted to give me a Rawkus chain, a platinum chain with diamonds on it. And I told them, I said, look, if you give me that chain, I'm going to take pictures with y'all up here, and we're going to ha, 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 and he. As soon as I walk out of here, I'm going to pawn it and go buy records. So I don't think you should do this. I said, if you want to give me something, give me money to go buy studio equipment.
Right.
I said, don't give me a chain, because I'm not a chain. I don't rock chains like that. And at the time, I had a bunch of gold chains, but I was rocking that for the 2 turntables and a mic video shoot we was doing. So, you know, but the Rawkus dudes, like, they started they derailed them. If they would have stayed with what they did, they would still be here. It would be a Rawkus. It would be like Duck Down is still here.
A lot can happen between falling in love with a house online and owning it, between imagining living there and breathing in your new home for the first time. Having an advocate who can help you navigate the complex world of financing, inspections, negotiating, analyzing the market, and talking through any anxieties that may pop up, that can make all the difference. That's what the expertise of a Realtor can do for you. Realtors are members of the National Association of Realtors and bound by a code of ethics, because that's who we are.
Rack your look for spring at Nordstrom Rack and save up to 60% on brands you love. Rag & Bone, Vince, Marc Jacobs, Adidas, Joe's, and more. Great brands, great prices every day at Nordstrom Rack. Score new dresses, denim, sandals, designer bags, and sunglasses, plus updates for the family and home. Get your spring on for less, up to 60% less, today at your Nordstrom Rack store. What will you find?